All right, YouTube and Auburn fan base, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Auburn football is back on the scene now, have made some more decisions as it relates to the coaching staff. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. We're vastly approaching the 5K mark subscriber-wise. Man, when I first started doing this, I never would have imagined that I would even reach 1,000. In having conversation about Auburn football, but to almost be at 5,000 is just a hugely humbling experience. I really want to thank the Auburn fan base for all the support, whether you agree or disagree, whether you like or dislike. I definitely appreciate your interaction here on Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. To start with, Auburn's got a really good basketball team. Only lost 2 games, one of those an SEC game, which will be pivotal down the stretch. Auburn, in their best interest, needs to win out in order to win the outright SEC championship in basketball. That's something that Bruce Pearl has done very well at, especially with his ability now to recruit. Why is Bruce Pearl able to recruit on the high level that he does? Well, he wins. He wins, and he puts guys in the league, and he puts guys in the league pretty early, and he puts guys in the league in the first round. That's a good selling point when you are trying to build a program. What is in it for me? There are not a lot of kids out here who, they're like, hey, I always dreamed of playing basketball at Auburn. None of them. My dad, Alan Flanagan, yeah, for sure. His father played at Auburn. But, for the most part, these guys had no idea what Auburn had to offer, especially during their recruiting, until Bruce Pearl comes along. Final Four appearance. Self-imposed ban from postseason last year. Would have made it last year as well. Still putting guys in the NBA. That's a hell of a selling point. Nice arena. Not that big, though. Seats about 10.5K. But still a hell of an atmosphere that Auburn has created in basketball, which has led to the conversation as to who do we love the most? I say Auburn is an everything school. College football is definitely king down in the deep south. So let's talk about a little football tonight. Auburn has had kind of a carousel going on here for the last few months. Austin Davis on boards as offensive coordinator decided, hey, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. So he bails out. Mike Bobo was actually fired at the end of the season last year. And now Auburn's looking for an offensive coordinator. Auburn's also looking for a defensive coordinator as Derek Mason leaves the program. Or was looking for a defensive coordinator as Derek Mason leaves the program. Schmetting is actually now the defensive coordinator, a Bryan Harsin guy. And now, speaking of Bryan Harsin guys, Eric Kisio is now Auburn's offensive coordinator. A lot of folks, of course, names are going to be thrown around. And I'm going to tell you why names are thrown around in these particular cases is because in the SEC, and especially with Auburn wants the microwave success. And Auburn believes that if you hire a big-name coach is going to attract some big-name recruits. And that is not always the case. Think about Nick Saban and his proteges, so to speak. How many of them have been successful outside of the friendly confines of Tuscaloosa? Not many of them. Kirby Smart among the best out of the group. Will Muschamp finding jobs as a defensive analyst after being a head coach at Florida, after being a defensive coordinator at Auburn, and, just really a head coach at South Carolina. Just not a lot of success. Not saying that Nick Saban doesn't have the ability to produce good coaches, but a lot of times that's not going to be the pedigree to pan out. Nick Saban's success is Nick Saban's success in his own right. Auburn didn't go after the big name this time. Auburn fans are looking for immediate success, and rightfully so, because that's what Auburn has been accustomed to. When the old coach is not getting done, get the new guy to come in, have a successful season for 1 or 2 seasons, give you hope that you're now this dynasty, and then a couple of years later, that coach tanks, and now you're looking for another coach. Auburn was looking for that last year. After getting rid of Gus Malzahn, Bryan Harsin comes in with the great pressers, with the great promises of what is going to happen at Auburn. First year goes 6-7. Now, to caveat that, you do have some, promise in those games. You take Alabama toe-to-toe, 4 overtimes to win that game. Alabama shows up in the national championship game. Hey, your team wasn't that horrible, but you didn't win. And we're not going to get into the coulda, shoulda, wouldas because that gets you nowhere. The result is what it is. Auburn fans expect results. Are Auburn fans excited about Eric Kiesau? I can't say they are, because they're like, who is he? He's another Bryan Harsin guy who's going to come in and bring in mediocre results. I think that's what a lot of the Auburn fan base are thinking. And what reason not to? At the same time, Bryan Harsin, just like any other leader, you want to have folks around you that understand your philosophy, that have been there with you when things were successful. And it won't be a back and forth, hey, I don't think we should do this, I don't think we should do that. I think I want to do my own agenda, and it's going to create division within the team. I'll say this. As a leader in corporate America myself, cooperation is key. Cooperation is key. It can actually lead to some decent results. Cooperation can actually lead to some solidarity, even among your cohorts, which are your football players. Your football players will more than likely buy in when there is one voice, when there is one message being told. And that's the biggest takeaway from this. I don't know what Eric is going to do. I know he had some pretty decent success at Boise State, especially in 2019, where there were multiple receivers over 500 yards, had a 1,000-yard running back. They got some things done. They were 12-2, and they finished the season ranked number 23 in the country. Not too shabby for an NWC conference team. Has Bryan Harsin and his staff done a good job recruiting? I mean, that's the result says no. In order for Auburn, who's not a namesake of their state, who is not nationally known, like your Georgia and your Florida and your Alabama and your Tennessee and your LSU, you're going to have to win football games as your selling piece to recruit. I don't give a damn how good a recruiter you are if you don't have the tangible results, especially as a team who, Auburn doesn't recruit bad. Typically on the high end, recruit between about 10 and 6 in their highest recruiting phases. And even still, at number 10, Auburn will still be ranked outside of the top 5 in the SEC, which poses even bigger problems. We're going to see what Eric does for the Auburn Tigers as the new offensive coordinator. He's got some challenges. One of the most profound challenges is going to be the offensive line. He's got a lot of guys coming back, a lot of guys who helped Auburn to some, pinpoint successes in 2021. Then with injuries, things kind of started to dissipate themselves. If Auburn can piece together a formidable offensive line that will allow Bryan Harsin to push his run-heavy agenda, which leads to the pass, they could have some success. We saw it a little bit last season. But when the offensive line collapses, Auburn's in trouble. You talk about a unit that has been the topic of conversation really since 2018. Everything in most fans' opinion always led back to the offensive line. We can argue and we can say that there were other factors. We can talk about play calling, but the bottom line, the common denominator among even the most high-end analysts or some of the couch potato football fans, the offensive line has been the Achilles heel of the Auburn offense here for the last few years. Also, quarterback play as well. Now, the good news for Eric is he has a lot, well, not a lot, but he has some experience to take away from, including TJ Finley and Zach Calzada. Got a few other guys in the from the transfer portal, but those two guys are going to be guys that he's going to look at from an experience standpoint. And then you have the talented Holden Grenier, who is coming from Savannah, one of the top recruits of this 2022 recruiting class. And also a dark horse in this thing who we still can't rule out is Demetrius Davis. That's another thing. Another challenge for Auburn is going to be the wide receiver position. Auburn still doesn't have that guy that just absolutely scares you to death, that puts your secondary in a bind as far as you got to really key in on this one particular guy. They make it really easy for a defensive coordinator to prepare for. Probably another group that's going to be key is the tight end group, the running back group headed by Tank Bigsby, and also the talented Jarquez Hunter. We're going to see how Eric can put this thing together. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. We will have more. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger. Yeah.